Origins of submarines. Before submarines became symbols of stealth and nuclear power, they were fragile experiments, ideas scribbled on paper and tested in rivers. In the 1600s, Dutch inventor Cornelis Drebbel built a wooden vessel covered in greased leather, rowed by oarsmen. It managed to dive a few meters under the Thames. A stunt, yes, but it planted the seed. Fast forward to 1775. The American Revolutionary War. David Bushnell designed the Turtle, a one-man submersible shaped like a barrel. Its goal? Sneak up to British warships and attach timed explosives. The attempt failed, but the concept shocked naval strategists. Ships might no longer be safe at anchor. The Civil War brought another leap. The Confederate submarine Hunley, powered by a hand crank, attacked and sank the USS Housatonic in 1864. It was the first successful combat strike by a submarine, but victory came at a cost. The Hunley and its crew never resurfaced. These prototypes were slow, fragile, and often deadly to their own operators. Yet they proved something undeniable. The ocean depths could become a battlefield. The submarine had taken its first unsteady steps into naval warfare. Early 20th century submarines. The dawn of the 20th century turned the submarine from experimental oddity into a recognized weapon of war. Navies across Europe began to invest seriously. France launched the Gymnote in 1888, one of the first fully electric submarines. Britain, Russia, and others followed, testing designs with mixed results. But it was Germany that pushed the limits. Their Unterseeboot, better known as U-boats, would soon change naval warfare forever. During World War I, these subs patrolled the Atlantic, striking merchant convoys and warships alike. They were slow, cramped, and dangerous for their crews. Yet their impact was enormous, cutting vital supply lines, forcing nations to rethink naval strategy. The Allies were unprepared. Convoys, depth charges, sonar. These countermeasures were all developed in response to the U-boat threat. By 1918, submarines had proven they could do what centuries of fleets had not: bring great empires to their knees without ever engaging in a traditional sea battle. The message was clear. Submarines were no longer experiments. They were strategic weapons. World War II submarine classes. If World War I proved submarines could shape strategy, World War II proved they could decide the fate of entire oceans. Germany doubled down on its U-boats. Faster, deadlier, and deployed in wolf packs, they hunted Allied convoys across the Atlantic. The Battle of the Atlantic became a war of attrition. Merchant ships versus submarines. At their peak, U-boats nearly starved Britain into surrender. But technology fought back. Radar, sonar, improved depth charges, and long-range patrol aircraft turned the tide. By 1943, the hunters had become the hunted. Germany's losses were catastrophic. Over 70% of their U-boat crews never returned. In the Pacific, the United States used submarines differently. Instead of targeting convoys, they crippled Japan's economy. American subs sank merchant ships, warships, even aircraft carriers, strangling Japan's supply lines. By 1945, U.S. submarines had destroyed over half of Japan's merchant fleet, at the cost of only 2% of the Navy's manpower. Meanwhile, the Japanese also deployed submarines, some massive, even capable of carrying aircraft. But their impact was limited compared to the German and American efforts. World War II cemented the submarine as more than a support weapon. It was now a central player in global warfare, silent, ruthless, and capable of changing the outcome of wars. Diesel-electric submarine. After World War II, submarines entered a new era of engineering. The dominant design became the diesel-electric submarine. Here's how it worked. On the surface, diesel engines powered the vessel and recharged its batteries. Submerged, the engines shut down, and the sub relied on electric power. Silent, but limited. Once the batteries ran out, the submarine had to surface or use a snorkel, exposing itself to detection. This design had clear limits, but it also had strengths. Diesel-electric submarines were cheaper to build than nuclear ones. quieter in certain conditions, and ideal for coastal defense or ambush tactics in shallow waters. The Soviet Union mass-produced them, flooding the oceans with classes like the Whiskey and Foxtrot subs. NATO navies, meanwhile, refined their designs for anti-submarine warfare training and patrol duties. Even with the arrival of nuclear power, diesel-electric subs didn't disappear. In fact, they evolved. Modern variants equipped with air-independent propulsion systems, AIP for short, can stay submerged much longer without surfacing, making them lethal in confined seas. The diesel-electric submarine remains a paradox. Old technology, constantly reinvented and still relevant in today's naval strategies. Nuclear-powered submarines. Then came the revolution. In 1954, the USS Nautilus became the first nuclear-powered submarine, a game-changer. Unlike diesel-electric subs, nuclear subs didn't need to surface for air. Their reactors produced energy for years, powering propulsion, life support, and advanced sensors. Suddenly, submarines were no longer limited by endurance, only by food for the crew. For the United States and the Soviet Union, this was the perfect weapon for the Cold War. Nuclear submarines could travel across the globe without detection, patrol under polar ice, and remain submerged indefinitely. Stealth became absolute. But nuclear propulsion wasn't just about power. It changed strategy. These submarines could carry more weapons, travel faster underwater than on the surface, and outlast any pursuit. Entire new classes were built: attack submarines for hunting and missile submarines for nuclear deterrence. Of course, there were risks. Nuclear accidents did occur. Both the US and the USSR lost submarines at sea. The cost of building and maintaining them also skyrocketed. Only a handful of nations could afford them. Still, the nuclear-powered submarine became the backbone of modern navies, blending endurance, stealth, and firepower like no other machine in history. Ballistic missile submarines. If nuclear propulsion changed how submarines moved, ballistic missiles changed why they existed. Enter the SSBN, submarine, ship, ballistic, nuclear. In simple terms, a mobile nuclear launch platform hidden beneath the ocean. The first was the USS George Washington in 1960, carrying Polaris missiles. For the Soviets, it was the Golf and later the Delta and Typhoon classes. France, the UK, and eventually China followed suit. The concept was terrifyingly effective. A submarine could remain hidden for months, armed with nuclear missiles capable of striking cities thousands of kilometers away. Even if a nation's land-based missiles were destroyed in a first strike, its SSBN fleet could guarantee retaliation. This became the backbone of nuclear deterrence, the so-called second strike capability. The largest of them all was the Soviet Typhoon class, displacing nearly 50,000 tons. So massive it carried multiple reactors, swimming pools, even saunas for its crew, a floating fortress designed to survive under the Arctic ice. Today, every nuclear power relies on SSBNs, silent, invisible, constantly on patrol. Their very existence shapes global security. Weapons that are never meant to be fired, but always meant to be feared. Modern attack submarines. If SSBNs are the guardians of nuclear deterrence, attack submarines, SSNs, are the hunters. Powered by nuclear reactors, SSNs can travel the globe undetected, stalking enemy subs, shadowing aircraft carriers, and gathering intelligence. Their primary mission: deny the enemy control of the seas. Then came the SSGNs, guided missile submarines. These giants trade ballistic nukes for dozens, even hundreds, of cruise missiles. The U.S. Navy's Ohio-class conversions can unleash a barrage of Tomahawks, striking targets inland with surgical precision, a true arsenal beneath the waves. Other nations followed their own paths. Britain's Astute class, Russia's Akula and Yasin class, France's Barracuda, China's Type 093, each designed for stealth, endurance, and versatility. Modern attack subs aren't just about torpedoes or missiles. They launch special operations forces, deploy drones, and use advanced sonar arrays to dominate the undersea domain and the future. Even quieter propulsion systems, autonomous undersea vehicles, and perhaps AI-assisted combat. The line between submarine and underwater mothership is already blurring. From the crude barrels of the 1600s to today's nuclear predators, submarines have reshaped naval warfare. Invisible, patient, unstoppable, they remain the ultimate shadow in the ocean. The dawn of fighter jets. The final years of World War II revealed a harsh truth. Propeller-driven fighters had reached their ceiling.